Talk about bad timing. So last night I'm on my porch having a late night cigar. I get a call from a member of Philadelphia law enforcement saying, Colin, turn on the Broadcastify.com. That's the scanner channel where you pick up scanner traffic, and he goes, turn on Philly. So the story last night was another black person is targeting more cops for attacks and shooting and attempted murder and other people too. So the first thing I did is I went to the local newspaper in Philadelphia, which is the conglomeration of the Inquirer and the Daily News. I click on their website, and this is what I find. This is the main story, right around midnight. Eagle players plan protest during anthem on Monday. So if you read the story, it goes down. It has the whole thing. The Eagle players are protesting all these white cops killing black people for no reason whatsoever. They're also protesting how black people are victims of all sorts of things, especially white racism that's stopping black people from getting jobs and keeping them in prison and convicting them of crimes they didn't do, putting them in prison for too long, putting them back too easily, the whole thing. Okay, that is what it is. So there wasn't really that much more on the story last night, at least not before I went to bed. So I went to bed, I got up and I piddled around. I really didn't even get to my computer till about 1 o'clock. When I opened my computer, I found this. The local papers are doubling down on the whole Monday Night Football Eagle protest against racist cops story. And by this time, whatever story they had, they've kind of shuffled off to the side. In a tiny little story, you see the racist cop story is like this big. The shooting cop story is about that big. Why don't we take a look at that shooting cop story and see how insignificant it really was.
521 Spruce, assist the officer, police by radio, officer down. That's repeating in the 18th, 521 Spruce, assist the officer, police by radio. We have an officer shot, 521 Spruce.
What you were listening to is that citywide radio call that went out when a Philadelphia police sergeant was shot late last night. Before it was all over, 7 people were shot, including innocent victims and a second police officer. This morning, we continue to follow that breaking news, an ambush-style attack on a police sergeant. Then came that shooting rampage that spanned several blocks as people were out enjoying a Friday night. This all began at 52nd and Sansom Streets, there in West Philadelphia, where that sergeant was sitting in her marked vehicle. Investigators say the suspect did not stop there, later shooting a University of Pennsylvania officer and 4 other people. We get you live right now to Action News reporter Bob Brooks at Penn Presbyterian Hospital in University City. And Bob, this is quite the violent story. What are you learning about what happened in all this?
Great, good morning. Extremely violent, and again, we are learning this was an ambush-style attack on police. The police commissioner telling us about a note found on this suspect detailing hatred of police officers and parole officers. I want to bring up some video here and take a look. This again all started at 52nd Street in Sansom. That's where Sergeant Sylvia Young was sitting in her car. She looks up. We're told she sees a man approaching her car with a gun, and he opens fire. She's shot multiple times in the arm. The suspect then takes off on foot eastbound down Sansom. As he's running, he shoots into a bar that has a door open. He hits the security guard and takes another woman outside there hostage briefly and then shoots her in the leg. Next, that suspect continues down Sansom. He fires at a car that had nothing to do with this. There's 2 people in there, a woman and a man inside. The woman, sadly, has been pronounced dead. Well, eventually he runs into an alley in between Sansom and Walnut. That's where he's confronted by a University of Pennsylvania police officer and 2 City of Philadelphia officers. And that is where the suspect is shot and killed. We spoke with Mayor Jim Kenney about this. Let's take a listen.
I had the opportunity to be with both officers this evening and their families. The one officer actually was cracking jokes and with his kids and his wife. The other was talking and with her family. So we're very happy and we're very blessed that that's the way it turned out. I think that we have to keep in our prayers the civilians that are seriously hurt and still in various degrees of being treated. And I think that's all in all, it was a really terrible, scary night. But our officers turned out okay, and hopefully the civilians will also turn out okay.
Back out live here, we certainly hope everyone recovers from their injuries. But again, one woman was shot and killed, along with the suspect who was shot and killed as well. But at this point, no word on who that suspect is. For now.
Now, this story of targeting cops in Philly, ambushing cops, isn't that much different than what happened in Phoenix a few nights ago. Guy drove his car into 3 cops trying to kill them. Luckily, they all turned out okay. No, not that much different than the black guy who killed 5 cops in Dallas a few months ago. I'll never forget. After that episode of where the 5 cops died, I'll never forget how the local media, national media, totally ignored. They kept saying it was a peaceful protest. They totally ignored the hundreds of black people who went to a local gas station, looted it. They didn't even run away. They went into the parking lot and they started to celebrate the death of these 5 cops.
When you niggas gon' unite and kill the police, motherfuckers. When you niggas gon' unite and kill the police, motherfuckers. When you niggas gon' unite and kill the police, motherfuckers. When you niggas gon' unite and kill the police, motherfuckers. When you niggas gon' unite and kill the police, motherfuckers. When you niggas gon' unite and kill the police, motherfuckers.
And of course in Philly, even though the Philadelphia Eagles are reminding people that cops in Philly are always picking on black people for no reason whatsoever, a lot of people in Philly still remember what happened just a few months ago when a black guy stuck a gun in the window of a cop car and emptied his revolver.
First, a Philadelphia police officer ambushed while on patrol. A suspect fires more than a dozen shots at point-blank range. Miraculously, the officer survives. Tonight, how he's being hailed a hero. And for the first time, we are now hearing from a relative of the alleged gunman. Good evening, everyone. I'm Yuki Washington.
I'm Jessica Dean. Police say the shooter confessed to the crime, saying he did it in the name of the Islamic State. We have live Team 3 coverage of the ambush. Diana Rocco spoke to one of the suspect's family members. And we begin with Natasha Brown, live outside police headquarters with the surveillance video that captured the attack. Natasha?
Well, we can tell you that the suspect is here at police headquarters awaiting arraignment at this hour. Meantime, as you mentioned, this attack was captured on camera and the video is chilling to watch. Surveillance video shows the cringe-worthy ambush on Officer Jesse Hartnett in West Philadelphia. The suspect moving closer and closer, firing multiple shots until he reaches point-blank range.
That's 6 shots fired! Get that spray, I'm shot! I'm bleeding heavily!
His car riddled with bullets, his left arm punctured by 3 9mm rounds. Officer Hartnett gets out of his police unit and gives chase, injuring 30-year-old Edward Archer, who is then quickly captured.
The bravery he demonstrated was absolutely remarkable. His will to live undoubtedly saved his life, and we're ever so thankful to God that he's here today.
Police questioned the suspect as to the motive behind the unprovoked attack. They say he confessed and continued to utter these words.
He stated that he pledges his allegiance to Islamic State. He follows Allah, and that is the reason he was called upon to do this.
According to him, he believed that the police defend laws that are contrary to the teachings of the Quran.
Sources tell CBS News Archer traveled to the Middle East, including trips to Cairo and Saudi Arabia in 2011 and 2012, and that while in prison, he may have converted to Islam. Police and FBI officials stopped short of commenting on whether Archer had any known ties to any organization or other suspects.
I won't confirm that for a variety of reasons. The one is so we don't let folks that we're probably or may lead down different paths know what we know.
While the layers involved in the investigation continue to be unraveled, officers rally around their brother in blue as he travels a lengthy road to recovery.
So that's the world we're living in now in Philadelphia and in the rest of the country. This violence towards cops now. I mean the war on cops. We've been talking about it here for a long time, but it's getting harder and harder for lots of people around the country to ignore it. And now we have football players telling us that it's not really a war on cops, it's really just self-defense, or it's really the cops are at war with black people. And all these football players want us to do is figure out how not to make the black kids angry.